Veritas in tenebris. Lumen ad revelationem.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Obscure Testament. Tonight, we ride the forgotten rails of America, tracks that once carried dreams, love, and death. From North Carolina to Texas, and deep into the haunted hills of Pennsylvania, these railways never stopped running even after their passengers were long dead. These are 3 haunted railway tales from the USA that continue to echo through the night. Our first story takes us to Bostian Bridge near Statesville, North Carolina. It was the early hours of August 27th, 1891. A train known as the Richmond and Danville No. 9 was crossing the 60-foot-high bridge when disaster struck. The train derailed at full speed, plummeting into the ravine below. 23 passengers were crushed or burned alive in the wreckage, their screams echoing through the valley. The bridge was rebuilt, the dead were buried. But the tragedy refused to rest. For decades, locals reported something strange happening every year on the anniversary of the crash. People said they heard the thunder of a steam engine where there was none, the sound of steel wheels screeching, followed by human cries fading into the dark. Some claimed to see flickering lights on the bridge like a ghost train repeating its final moments in an endless loop. Then, in 2010, the legend turned deadly once again. A group of amateur ghost hunters went to Bostian Bridge on the night of August 27th, hoping to witness the phantom train for themselves. Among them was 29-year-old Christopher Kaiser. The group stood near the center of the bridge just past midnight, their flashlights sweeping across the rusted tracks. That's when they saw a light in the distance, growing brighter and brighter. They cheered, thinking it was the ghostly train from 1891, but the light was real, a modern locomotive, roaring toward them at nearly 60 miles per hour. Panic erupted. They ran, but there was nowhere to go. The bridge was narrow, the drop fatal. Christopher pushed one friend out of the way just as the train hit. He was struck and thrown over the edge. When authorities found his body, the others said something they'll never forget. Right before the real train appeared, they had seen another light behind it, dimmer, flickering, as if a second train, a ghost train, was following close behind. Ever since, locals say you can still hear the shriek of metal and the cries of the dying every August 27th. Some claim that if you stand too close to the bridge, you'll feel a gust of cold air the same moment the train went off the tracks more than a century ago. Others have seen faces peering out from the shadows beneath the bridge, pale and distorted, as though frozen in terror. No one stays long. The sound of the phantom whistle still pierces the night, warning travelers to keep their distance. Our next story takes us far south to San Antonio, Texas, and a lonely railroad crossing that's become one of the most chilling legends in the state, the ghost tracks of Shane Road. The story begins sometime in the 1930s or 40s. A school bus carrying children home from class stalled on the railroad tracks. The driver panicked as a train appeared in the distance, horn blaring, but it was too late. The train hit the bus, killing everyone instantly: the children, the driver, every soul on board. The tracks were repaired, the wreck forgotten, but not by the dead. Decades later, strange things began to happen. Drivers who stopped their cars on the same crossing reported feeling their vehicles move uphill, seemingly pushed by unseen hands. The engine off, the brakes untouched, yet the car rolled forward until it was safely off the tracks. Skeptics claimed it was an illusion caused by a slight downhill slope, but witnesses insisted something else was there. One woman decided to test the legend herself. Late one night, she stopped her car on the crossing, turned off the ignition and waited. The car trembled and began to move. It rolled slowly forward as if pushed from behind. She screamed, thinking maybe she was dreaming, until it came to a stop on the other side of the tracks. When she got out and looked at her trunk, her heart nearly stopped. There were tiny handprints pressed into the dust, small and distinct, like the hands of children. Others have experienced the same. Some sprinkle baby powder on their bumpers before parking near the crossing. When they drive away, those tiny prints always return. The legend says the spirits of those children never left. They remain trapped between worlds, protecting anyone who finds themselves stranded on the tracks. But the story takes a darker turn. One night, a man parked his car near the site, mocking the legend. He shouted into the darkness, taunting the ghosts to show themselves. The next morning, he was found dead in his car, the engine still running. His vehicle had rolled off the tracks and into a ditch. On his windshield were dozens of small handprints smeared across the glass, as if trying to get in. Whether the story is myth or truth, one thing is certain: the ghost tracks of San Antonio have never been silent. To this day, when the air grows still and the night feels heavy, you can hear the faint laughter of children carried by the wind, mingling with the distant wail of a train that never stops coming. Our final story takes us to Malvern, Pennsylvania, to a lonely stretch of rail known as Duffy's Cut, a place where the land itself seems cursed. In 1832, a group of 57 Irish immigrants arrived to work on the Philadelphia and Columbia Railroad. They were promised good pay, shelter, and opportunity, but what they got was misery. They lived in crude shacks beside the tracks, digging through stone and dirt from sunrise to sunset. Then, a cholera epidemic broke out. One by one, the workers fell ill. Instead of helping, the supervisors ordered the sick to be quarantined, isolated from the town, left to die in the woods. But not all of them died of disease. The railroad wanted no panic, no scandal, no witnesses. So, according to legend, the remaining workers were killed, shot, or beaten, and buried in a mass grave beneath the tracks. For nearly 2 centuries, Duffy's Cut became a place of unease. Locals spoke of glowing green lights moving through the trees, of ghostly figures with pickaxes wandering the fields, their faces pale and hollow. Some nights a mist would rise from the ground, and from within it, the sound of shovels and coughing could be heard, like the dead still working to finish the line that killed them. In 2003, researchers uncovered human remains near the site. They belonged to several men Irish, in their 20s and 30s, with fractured skulls and broken bones. They hadn't died of cholera. They had been murdered. Among them was the body of a young man clutching a small coin, his fingers still curled around it after nearly 200 years. It was as though he'd been buried alive, grasping the last piece of his world. Even today, train conductors report strange happenings near Duffy's Cut. Some have seen ghostly lights dancing along the tracks at night, vanishing the moment they approach. Others have heard faint music, an old Irish tune drifting through the dark woods. The locals say those men are still there, working under the earth, trying to build their way home. One night, a maintenance worker was walking the tracks near the site when his radio began to crackle. Through the static, he heard what sounded like voices, whispers, layered and echoing. He froze. Then, from the darkness, a pale figure stepped onto the tracks. The man was barefoot, his clothes torn, his eyes hollow and desperate. The worker called out, but the figure just stared and then faded away, leaving nothing but the faint scent of smoke and earth. Each of these stories reminds us of one truth: the railway is not just a path of steel and stone, but of memory and loss. Every crossing, every bridge, every cut through the hills carries echoes of those who never made it home. The ghosts of Bostian Bridge, the children of San Antonio, the workers of Duffy's Cut all still travel their endless routes, unseen but never gone. So the next time you find yourself near the tracks at night, listen closely. When the wind picks up and the rails begin to hum, don't be so sure it's just the sound of a passing train. Sometimes, the dead still have journeys to complete. Thank you for watching Obscure Testament. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more terrifying stories from the shadows.